Sustainable development goals are those goals that will ensure the current generation meets their needs without compromising the needs of the future generation. That the government, the state, when coming up with policies, plans, programs, projects, those programs should ensure that they take into consideration the future generation. So in their minds, states should take into account the future generation so that they cannot hamper or tamper with the future generation. So Agenda 21 on the Global Action Plan sets out the building blocks on sustainable development. And these are 3 building blocks, and they include information, integration, and participation. That the programs, the initiative, the plans that the government have in mind of achieving or attaining development, they should be based on the building block of information, that people should be informed about this program so that it can ensure sustainability. That it should also be participative, it should involve people. People should be taken into consideration, be told about this program, they should be educated about them. And it should also be it should be based on the principle of integration, that people should be integrated. So those 3 building blocks: integration, information, and participation. So we have the principles of sustainable development. These are principles that will ensure that sustainable development is achieved. So the first principle is the principle of eco-friendly, that development programs should be based on this principle of eco-friendly. Another principle is the principle of that says that environment and development are not mutually exclusive. You cannot separate environment from development. That development and environment are not mutually exclusive. They are things that work together. Another principle is the principle of symbiotic relationship, that has the symbiotic relationship between the consummate human race or human being and the producer natural systems. So the producer natural system and the consummate human race, that symbiotic relationship is also another principle of sustainable development. Another principle of sustainable development is that one that ensures that the current generation should meet their needs without compromising the need of future generations. Actually, the basic principle. Another principle is the principle that says that any capital that wants any economic development that intends to be achieved without taking into account the principle of sustainable development, or any capital to be achieved, is not successful per se, is not successful. Any capital, economic capital that is not geared to us sustainable development is not successful. So we have the dimensions of sustainable development, and these are the economic dimension, the social dimension, the cultural dimension, the technological dimension, or the dimension that involves ICT, and the institutional dimension. So those are the dimensions of sustainable development. And we also have the pillars of sustainable development. You have the economic pillar, the social pillar, the cultural pillar, and the environmental pillar. So we also have areas where sustainable development is concerned. So if you want to achieve sustainable development, there are specific areas that you must touch. This is the area of environment, the area of energy, the area of forestry, the area of biodiversity, the area of capacity building, the area of biotechnology. Those areas, there are so many areas. We have the area of energy, there are so many areas that when dealing with sustainable development, you must consider those areas. The area of climate change is also another area that you must consider. So climate change is an important topic to deal with when studying sustainable development. So when achieving sustainable development, the state should ensure that it does not hamper the climate. The climate change mitigation strategies should be geared towards sustainable development. And talking of climate change, you have the United Nations UNFCCC, United Nations Framework on Combating Climate Change. Actually, it's the leading instrument on climate change. So this UNFCCC sets out the obligation that various countries, the various nations have to follow towards achieving or dealing with climate change or combating climate change. So it is based on the principle of common but differentiated approach, this United Nations framework on climate change. We also have other conventions like the Kyoto Protocol and the Doha Declaration, Doha Amendment, that is an amendment of the Kyoto to the Kyoto Protocol. So we also have legislations that like the Climate Change Act of 2014 or 2019 there. So also talking of climate change, we also have climate change litigation. Under climate change litigation, these are where the cases on climate change arise. So under climate change litigation, you can sue as a citizen when the government hasn't taken the required measure, the necessary measure that the government is obligated to take to combat issues of climate change, and you can be compensated for that. So we also have carbon security and carbon marketing when talking about climate change. And carbon marketing is where the countries states trade in carbon, or the amount of carbon emission, the trade that involves carbon. So take an example of China that has the limit of carbon, the carbon emission limit is maybe around 60. And a country like Tanzania does not really emit much of this carbon, and that the percentage of emission is about 5. And let's say that China has already met their 60%, which is the limit. So China will come and trade with Tanzania with the 55% that Tanzania has remained with, and that is what is referred to as carbon marketing. And carbon, so under climate change, the amounts of emissions that nations emit through the industries and various forms of emission, these emissions result into global warming because they affect the ozone layer, that results into global warming that will increase the temperature, the Earth's temperature, that may have an impact to the rising and of the ocean seas, rising of the seas and ocean currents. So the global warming has a devastating impact to the world, and the nations or states are advised to reduce the amounts of carbon dioxide that is emitted to the atmosphere. So this carbon dioxide that is emitted that results to global warming, that raises the temperature of the world to a devastating state. So I think that is the end, and have a nice day. Subscribe to Scott Smith channel, and come on guys, we're gonna do this.